Hey guys, I'm Si and welcome to A.C.E Podcast Nation, the home of the Andy Campbell Football Show. This is episode number 70. Show is available live on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter, Periscope, as well as you can find the audio versions probably later tonight or tomorrow morning on your favourite podcast and radio platform. Everywhere it can be found. A.C.E Podcast Nation, also home to many great shows and series featuring top guests, expert analysts and more. Give us a follow on social media and most importantly, subscribe to the YouTube channel. That is the most direct way to support the channel and the show. And you can also follow the show directly at A.C.E Footy Show, and that's on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter. So just as we wait for the chat to fill up, I gotta say a big thank you to Black Diamond Sports. Black Diamond Sports is a global sports agency representing sports stars from around the world. For more information, you can visit their social media pages as well as their brand new spanking website, which is beautiful. And you can find the links to that in the description below, as well as the closing credits at the end of the show. And also, massive thank you to Darren Ralston and Bespoke Financial for sponsoring the show. We are very grateful for their support and their help, and here's a quick word from them also.
My mummy and daddy have been talking about life insurance. It sounds like something to protect my brother and me, but I don't really understand. Then my auntie Louise told mummy about Bespoke Financial Teesside. She said they're a local company who helped her with her life insurance. Mummy got in touch, and because they're based locally, a man called Darren was able to come to our house. He was really friendly. Darren stayed for a cup of tea and made it all really easy to understand. He said that life insurance will protect our home and family if anything bad were to happen. Like if mummy or daddy got sick, then we'd get enough money to take care of us, and our house would be paid for so it wouldn't get taken away. After an hour, Darren said goodbye and mummy and daddy seemed a lot happier. Once it was all sorted, we could all relax and watch a film together as a family. I don't know why they didn't do it sooner.
Yeah, we thank Bespoke Financial for sponsoring the show. Bespoke Financial specialise in life insurance, critical illness, income protection, mortgages and sports cover. And I urge you all to check them out. They do some great stuff, and including doing some services for the first person I'm going to introduce, who is my usual co-host, the goal collector, the fox in the box, still the captain, the king, the Millennium Stadium, the speed demon, Davy Jones' favourite son, the goal machine of Middlesbrough over 40s, fresh off his worldie at the weekend. It is none other than Mr. Andy Campbell. Welcome, my friend.
Good evening, mate. Really looking forward to this. I'm sure I've just caught a link as well, because I'm sure Darren Ralston played for Darlington, if my memory serves me right.
Yeah, I think
James might be able to tell me that, I'm sure.
Back,
yeah, I'm sure he did, yeah. No, I'm really looking forward to it. Great to have a current player on the show. That's something that we've worked hard on, so haven't we? You know, that trying to get these current footballers on, and this one more than most because of what's going to happen, as I say, in the near future with next season also, etc. But we'll obviously get into that. But no, really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one, mate. So tonight's guest started his professional career at Darlington before playing for Newcastle, Hartlepool, Exeter, Forest, and of course a legendary stint spanning so far over 650 appearances and 62 goals for Doncaster Rovers. It is none other than Mr. James Coppinger. Welcome, James. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good to see you.
I'm all right, mate. Really looking forward to it.
Yeah, great to have you on. Great to have you on, James. One question I'll start with. Have you worked out how many games that you could get this season before whatever happens next season?
I think Have
you got a target?
Yeah, I'm on 700 and something, so I want to get to over 800 career games. I want to get over 100 career goals. I think I'm on 93 career goals. So it'd be nice to.
You'd have that by Christmas.
It'd be nice to finish. It'd be nice to finish over 800 and over 100 goals. I should have had more goals, but yeah, it'd be nice to get over 100.
Talking about goal side, James, I urge everyone who watches now, you know what I mean, if you've got another device, because I don't want you switching off, Go on and see James's goal against Man United under 23s. It was an absolute corker. It was just picturesque. You know, obviously there must have been a half decent side, I'm guessing, as well, Cops.
Yeah, I think they played Huddersfield the week before, and they drew 3-3. I know, obviously, Quinton Fortune played at Doncaster, so I spoke to him before the game, and they have high hopes for a lot of their players. I think they signed one of their lads for 8 million from a French side, and like you say, if you're playing for Man United 23s, you're going to be a good player. But we played really well, sort of two different teams, two separate halves, 3-0 and 2-0. And yeah, we sort of it was the first sort of dry run COVID at the Keepmoat, which was interesting as well.
Yeah, good. So you're obviously being a Man United fan, you're not going to be happy with James, are you?
I don't know where you get this rubbish from. You're listening to the same people. Who
Surely not.
You hate Leeds, and I hate Liverpool.
I admit it. I'm openly admit it, though. I do hate Leeds.
I don't hate Liverpool. Don't know what you're on about. But straight away, just before we go into the Magnificent Seven, Gaz says, Cop's the legend. He said, I always wanted him at West Ham. So, have you ever come close to signing for West Ham, or is that just a pipe dream for Gaz?
My father-in-law is a West Ham fan, actually, and I scored at West Ham when we played them down there. We drew 1-1, but I've never, ever been close to signing for any London club, unfortunately.
Unlucky Gaz.
Yeah, straight back at you, Gaz. Basically, he didn't want to. Gaz.
He would have, but
stay up north. Prefer to stay up north.
Weather's better.
Yeah.
He hates West Ham like Andy hates Leeds. So, okay, so we'll start off with the Magnificent Seven. Magnificent Seven is 7 quick-fire questions just to get to know you, James, get to know your tastes. Okay. James Coppinger, the Magnificent Seven. Messi or Ronaldo?
Messi.
Doncaster 100%. Or Exeter?
It's got to be Doncaster.
Do you know what though? A part of me wishes, just a part of me wishes he said Exeter. I don't know why. I just
troublemaker.
I think that's the mischievous part of me.
Yeah.
Favorite TV show?
Right now, I'd say Would I Lie to You with Lee Mack and Rob Brydon. Absolutely love it.
Nice. Just very different to what we've had.
Love it. Yeah. Love that question. New, different every time. Angriest teammate?
Andy Griffin.
Must have been a few.
Andy Griffin. Oh my God. I seen
Newcastle.
Yeah, I have a fight with Laurent Robert at the training ground. The angriest man you'll ever come across, but one of the nicest men off the pitch. But always loved the tackle.
Yeah, did he came from Stoke City, Cops, didn't he? Is that the same lad he signed from?
Yeah, he's from Stoke. Yeah. And ironically, he played for Doncaster as well when we won the league. He was part of that squad as well. Great lad.
Yeah, top lad.
Best roommate?
Billy Sharp, I'd have to go for. The most sort of energetic. He'd be up in the morning doing diving headers across his bed. Absolutely loved it. So yeah, Billy Sharp, most entertaining, I'd say.
Top player as well, Cops, wasn't he? Top player, still is.
Yeah, he's still doing it, isn't he? I've not come across anybody, bar probably Alan Shearer, on the same sort of loves scoring a goal, just lives for scoring a goal, lives for that feeling of scoring a goal. Like I said, in the morning, sort of diving headers, running around in the morning, just couldn't wait to get on the pitch. So he still does, you know what?
Colin.
Yeah, he's going to say he's still doing it. You mentioned Alan Shearer there, so the next question is Alan Shearer or Wayne Rooney?
I'd have to go for Alan Shearer, to be honest. Just
trying to trouble cause here.
Just as a northern lad, sort of played with him. All-time Premier League top scorer. Just absolute legend, Newcastle legend.
Can't dispute that.
And I'm not a big fan of Manchester United either. So
I remember that.
Sorry.
So there we go. And then the final question: the greatest Englishman who's ever lived.
Wow.
Doesn't have to be football related.
Just an unbelievable question, Cops. An unbelievable question.
I'd have to say Winston Churchill.
There we go.
Nothing gets better than winning a war, is there? So, yeah.
Do you know what? That's the first ever time we've had that answer as well. So it's a good
No
answer.
way.
It's one. No, I promise you. We haven't always had English people on, by the way, because the question is linked to the person of the country. So we've had Scottish people, Welsh people, people from other different countries. So, but the English people, you're the first person, Englishman, who's.
What do people normally say? What have you had?
Just people who's well, we've had sportsmen, we've had John Charles, we've had footballers, sports people, just people who've just idols really. I'd say more idols than anything. Which it's everyone to their own, isn't it?
When you're on the spot as well, it's like such a broad question, isn't it? That a lot of people just revert to football
and what they know.
But I like it.
Good answer.
So welcome to all the Doncaster fans, by the way, in the chats on the various platforms. Good to have you here. So what we do next is we have any other business where we talk a couple of stories from around the world which are not necessarily related to our guest. Before we do that, I just want to say a little shout out to the people of Caerphilly, which is just around the corner from me, who has been announced in the last sort of half hour or so that they're going into full lockdown again, unfortunately. So much love to them. I got a lot of family and friends, and I know there's a lot of viewers there as well.
Yeah, nice place.
It is, but there's loads of content on A.C.E Podcast Nation which you can watch while you're at home. No shame. Okay, any other business? First and foremost, we're going to have to talk about the breaking news today that youngsters, I suppose, but they're still grown men, Phil Foden and Mason Greenwood of the two Manchester clubs have been sent home from England duty, I think you'd say, for breaking the bubble, going to meet some Icelandic girls which they met on Snapchat, from what I can gather. I don't even know where to begin with this, so I'm going to throw it to you two experts first, and then I'll throw my 2 cents in after. Andy, you go.
Listen, I'm going to start with being a footballer, first and foremost, is the best job and the most privileged job in the world. So to jeopardise that and to jeopardise your reputation is one thing. To do it as an Englishman away with your country, for me, is going to another level. Is absolutely ridiculous behaviour, and it's inexcusable for me. You've got a lad at Man United, Greenwood, who's been brought up a la Sir Alex Ferguson, and with all the role models and with all the players, Ryan Giggs, etc., David Beckham. He's seen all those coming through. They've never ever done done something of this magnitude or any kind of this in this serious manner. And Phil Foden, he's probably got the most dynamic young manager in the world, in Guardiola, and I just feel as though, and I would feel as though that they've massively let me down. You know that. It'll take probably good pressure off someone like Harry Maguire, by the way, because Harry's probably sat at home right now thinking, they've took the pressure off me a little bit. However, I think they've just let the whole country down. They've certainly let themselves and the family down. And listen, I look at the figures as well. Both players were fined £1,360. That on its own is a ridiculous statement, because it's absolutely ridiculous. Is that going to stop them doing it again? No, it's not.
Some of those protesters in the last couple of weeks in London got fined 10 grand. But you're telling me, like, look, I don't want to make it about money because it's not about that. But I think Mason Greenwood is on 15 grand a week or something. Phil Foden is on more than that.
Doesn't matter for me, Si. If they were on £500 a week, I would fine them 20 times that to stop them doing it again. There's got to be a deterrent. And what's a deterrent? You know what I mean? Well, the deterrent now is going to be not playing for the next couple of weeks. But let's see. Cops,
yeah, James,
what's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think COVID aside, I think it's a fantastic opportunity for both players. I just can't believe in this day and age people are still doing that. They've got a huge responsibility, and to sort of go and do what they've done, I think what the clubs have come out and said and how they'll be punished will probably put them off from doing it again. Probably the way the public will make them feel. They are young and they have got everything thrown at them, and they will learn from it. But it is a silly mistake to make. I think in this day and age, I think there's so many people that could have advised them or should be advising them almost preventing them from doing this. I genuinely can't believe it's happened, to be honest.
On that one, Cops, because I hope you don't mind me putting you in a similar category to myself, as in an age category. That football's evolved, hasn't it? You know that back in the day, and I'm on about when I made my debut, '96, which was a hell of a long time ago. That football was so different. There was a drinking culture, there was a party culture, there was a socialising culture. And football now, you know what I mean? You've seen it evolve massively, playing within and over the centuries. And how different is it then now than it was back then?
I think it's massive. I had this conversation with my dad today, actually, just about that, about how it's changed. So we used to go out on a Tuesday night. Very rarely will any of the lads. There might be one or two, but it used to be sort of 50-60% of the lads would go out. And like I said previous, that I've been on away trips where people have been told not to go out and they've gone out and they've lost their jobs, they've been sacked. And it used to happen all the time. And that's what I'm saying in this day and age. It really, really surprises me that they've almost got to, that this has happened, especially away with a country, representing your country. It just doesn't, for me, it doesn't make sense. I don't know whether there's more to it, or I think there's always more to it, but
you mentioned there though, Cops, about when you knew a couple of lads who got the sack. Do you think now though clubs are scared to do that because Greenwood would go and walk into any team in the Premier League, would demand X amount of money, and Foden would go in probably any side in the world at the minute, the way that he's playing technically. The
big boys of Europe would snap both of them up and sack them.
I think it's a total different, the level that we were playing at the time. It's a total different ball game. I think you're right. I think there's too much.
It shouldn't matter though, should it? It shouldn't.
It shouldn't, but it does, and it always does.
I agree.
Especially at that level. But yeah, I think it's disappointing from both clubs' perspectives. The sort of the responsibility they have as young players. But again, they'll bounce back from it. They'll learn from it, hopefully. And within sort of 3-4 weeks, there'll be sort of some other news headline.
So, you mentioned there though, Cops. You mentioned about people like other people, role models and things who probably could have stopped them. Yes, the players shouldn't have done it, but will players beat themselves up a little bit that they weren't aware, or if they were aware, they didn't stop it? And I'm probably talking Harry Kane's.
Yeah, that was my question.
The kind of elder statesman.
Is it the captain's responsibility to manage the players like away from the manager? If you get what I mean.
It's hard to comment without knowing the individuals and the characters that are in that dressing room, but there will be characters that obviously I imagine will have sort of, and again you don't know whether they've gone behind the players' backs and whether nobody knew about it, so it's hard to comment. But you always feel like, as an older statesman, especially myself, in sort of my club, it's like you try and help the younger lads to an extent, but at the same time you can't hold their hands all the time. They've got to sort of learn for themselves. But it's not so much the players. I just don't know how this has come about. Obviously, I don't know too much about it, but it still amazes me that goes on.
I think the biggest thing for me, Si, is that it wasn't Grealish. That was the biggest surprise of the day. You know what I mean? For me, when I said England players in a scandal,
you assumed it was going to be him.
Oh, of course I did. I think every single football fan in the world probably thought it was going to be him.
So I'm going to just look at it from a little slightly different angle, so I don't want to repeat the same stuff. Obviously, I agree with everything which you both kind of just said. So a couple of things. Man City's statement was fantastic, but it was also hilarious. You know that when he gets back, he is getting the dressing down of a lifetime from whether it's Guardiola or the chief executive, whoever it may be. It was very sternly written. Man United's was a little bit more kind of general, but they deserve it. The other thing I was going to ask you both really is, if Harry Maguire, if you take out what happened with Harry Maguire, if Harry Maguire is there as Manchester United captain, someone who's obviously worked closely with Mason Greenwood, and they've both said in interviews that Maguire's been advising him and helping him as he's broken into the first team and dealing with the pressure. Do you think that makes a difference, that if Harry Maguire's there, to whether Mason Greenwood makes that decision to sneak out of the hotel?
I'll jump on back to what Cops just said there. That yes, players if they were aware, they're out of order. But I believe, and I don't know the ins and outs, like Cops has just said, that I think that this was done behind people's backs, and it was done very sneakily, and it was just those two people. And they've let themselves down, but they've let the rest of the group down as well, because if other people were aware of it and they haven't stopped them, they're just as bad as the two who've gone out. So, you know what I mean? For me, I can't imagine that anyone else knows, because that would come out as well. Yeah. Because, you know what I mean? Because other people be involved in it. It's impossible.
Danny Murphy said on TalkSport that when he was on England duty and they used to sneak out, they would basically give the doorman... I don't know how to put it. Like, basically, give them a wad of cash to sneak them out the back door, or sneak them out basically, so they didn't get seen. Like, to me, in the kind of biodome bubbly type things which they're creating for these sporting events and international duty and stuff, it boggles my mind how two players were able to sneak out. Because there's so many. I would imagine there is so many. Steps to them going from their hotel room to getting out and about, because, for instance, very quickly, the guy like Danny, obviously, who does the MMA show, has been to Dubai with the UFC. They're not allowed out of their rooms. They've got to stay in their rooms for 7 days. They have everything brought to them, blah blah blah. You can have whatever you want. That you're very well looked after. If they wanted to sneak out when they're not supposed to, they would have to. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of steps to doing it. Yeah. It's not just a case of kind of looking outside your room, looking to see if there's anyone in the corridor, and then walking out the hotel. There's a lot of different personnel along the way. So, it is what it is, I guess. So moving on from that, but kind of still on the same subject. And this one has irritated me, I got to be honest. The Czech Republic are being forced to play Scotland, despite, I think 2 players and a member of staff have been tested positive, I think it was. But that has meant that a large number of the initial, the original coaching staff and players have all had to go into quarantine. But the FIFA or UEFA have told them they have to play. So they've had to bring in a whole set of different backroom staff and a whole different squad. Now, is the Nations League that important that we need to do that? Because I would imagine all these new people they brought in, they haven't been in a bubble, which is kind of the whole point, I thought. Andy, what do you make of that, mate? Because I find that a bit confusing and a bit irritating.
I'm a big follower of the USA football, MLS, and Nashville had a similar issue. So Nashville had a lot of players who contracted COVID. And they didn't get kicked out of the MLS, but they were taken out of the MLS because of health reasons, and they weren't going to affect any other team, which is the right thing to do. So they were taken out of it, and they played their games, friendly games at the end of the season, so they didn't miss out, but they weren't involved in the chance to win the playoffs and stuff. And that's in a major league, so this is a friendly. It's a friendly tournament. Apparently it's a friendly tournament. It's not a World Cup. It doesn't go anywhere for any other things. And for me, I think the bigger picture is, I think we're missing the bigger picture. The bigger picture is health. And the health issue is just, for me, it's getting forgotten about. Yes. And at the same time, I'm baffled by it all, because what's important, it's a game, even if it's a World Cup qualifier, just play it on another day. Just play it in another 6 months. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? We're not chasing football. We're just starting the season. Cops will know what. Well, I don't know if you know the story, but there was a local league here, and I don't know if you heard the story. I won't name the team because I don't want to obviously get any of the players in trouble. But it was a semi-professional league in here, and one of the teams, 2 of the players contracted COVID, so they weren't playing on Saturday. And the league said that was fine, but I thought it was 14 days that you had to obviously self-isolate. They've been told they have to play on Tuesday. They haven't got a big squad, so the players have to play again. So I just don't understand it for me. You know what I mean? You're forcing people to play and force them into a position that they don't want to be in. So for me, they're making a mockery of the whole thing.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's just kind of. I don't think the Nations League is so important that we need to kind of.
No league's important. That important.
No. At the end of the day, it's when it comes down to it, it's not the most important thing in the world. Very quickly before I get James's take on that, I just wanted to also say the other aspect to the Greenwood and Foden thing is, because they broke the bubble, they lose the exemption which elite athletes get, where they don't have to isolate when they come back into the country. So they've got to isolate for 14 days now. Now, I don't know offhand what the date is of the first club game, but I'd imagine it's quite close to that.
12.
So they,
to 12.
So they're going to miss. Well, there you go. They missed the first game then because they've got to isolate, which brings another aspect to it, doesn't it? Because I can't imagine Guardiola and Solskjaer will be very happy with that. Okay, James, what do you make of the Czech Republic situation and Scotland, etc.?
I just think you'd think common sense would prevail. You know, like Andy said, it just seems ridiculous that with the uncertainty, everything that's going on, that the health risks come last, and everything else gets put in front of it. It just amazes me. I think because people don't know what to do for the best, I think you'd always sort of, again, put people's health and safety at the forefront of everything. Nothing is more important than people's well-being. So it just, again, I can't understand why or who makes them sort of decisions.
It doesn't make sense to me, Cops, as well, outside that we've all, the whole world's self-isolated, you know what I mean? We haven't done anything for months and months and months. Football's been cancelled for months and months and months. So why now is it that important that it's got to take over life? You know,
but it almost feels like there's different rules for different people and different sort of organisations, and I do get that it's something sort of an unprecedented situation and nobody really knows what to do, and it's almost like different people are saying to do different things. But there needs to be, I think there needs to be some common sense when things like that happen.
Don't get us started about organisations. Don't get us started about organisations.
UEFA and common sense.
No, well, I'm on about an organisation which is close to Cops' heart. Well, not heart, but probably club. That obviously, and I'm gonna ask you the question. I don't expect a brutally honest answer, but I'd like your take on it. So obviously, the season finished, not in the right manner, in my opinion, for your club and a lot of other clubs in your league and the league below and the league below that. But did it end fairly for you and for your team?
I think again, like when things happen, like what's happened, a one-off, again, something that nobody expected. It's so difficult to sort of put it into perspective, and you're never going to please everybody. The likes of Sunderland, the likes of Peterborough in our league that missed out, that were in there. Wycombe went into third and then ended up getting promoted. I think we were 3-4 points off with the game in hand. I think it's a matter of just sort of sucking and see. You are where you are, and we've just got to go again this season. But it was frustrating, and I think the uncertainty was the hardest part. You know, sitting at home, not knowing what was happening, sort of 4 or 5 weeks down the line, still not knowing what was happening, and trying to, being able to tick over, getting sent programs. You couldn't go out the house. You had to do it by yourself. It was really, really uncertain times, but it's good just to be back in the building, to be honest.
And that's obviously fantastic to get that kind of insight, because obviously we've had Joe Jacobson on last week, who obviously ended up playing some games and competitive games, so that, and they were in the training ground to obviously work on certain things before they played Fleetwood in the semi-final. But obviously with yourselves, that you were training, keeping yourself at peak fitness for long periods of time, and then all of a sudden just to be told that that's it, we don't need to train anymore, we'll see you in 3, 4, 5 weeks, which must have been a nightmare.
Yeah, and I think especially with being 39, coming to the end of your contract, although I've been there 16 years, the uncertainty of the club losing money, the club being in a situation where they've had to get rid of 1 and 2 staff. We've lost a fitness coach, we've lost a physio, we've lost 2 members of staff. There's been redundancies made at the ground. It's been horrendous for everybody. So for me personally, sat at home, I'm sort of dealing with, working with the club in dealing with sort of 15% pay deductions from all the lads. So I have to make calls with all the lads. It was really, really difficult. But at the same time, the club handled it really well. The lads handled it really well. And everyone associated with Doncaster Rovers, it's almost like we're starting to sort of come back a little bit back to normality. And the season starts obviously on Saturday, which I think everybody sort of can't wait for.
Yeah, and I know you wanted to just quickly touch on the international games in pre-season. So go on, you give your view on that very quickly, mate, and then we'll move into James.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the timing of these games. You know, I know they're put in a diary and they've got to happen because they put these competitive games in place. But for me, they're still friendly games. Do they need to happen the week before the start of the season? No. And I think players are voting with the feet and not playing, and then still turning out for the clubs, which makes a mockery of it for me. You know, that there's nothing better to play for your country. However, I fully understand that the players who see which is more important, a friendly
Nations League or Premier League,
or your Premier League. You know, you've got a season starting in less than a week, and you know, I mean, you can't afford to. You know, what I mean, I watched Ryan Giggs' interview the other day, and he said that he was going to make all these changes and rest players, but he sees it as a big thing because obviously the FIFA rankings are based on a big things, and Wales need to get in a better FIFA ranking to get an easier qualifying stage. So he's got to play his best team. But if you're Cardiff City manager and you've just signed Kiefer Moore, you don't want him playing that many kind of games before he's starting the season on Saturday. You know, he's a big player, signed for a lot of money. Same with Matthew James, same with Gareth Bale. You know what I mean? He's not played hardly any football. If he gets injured, any kind of move, he's going to be scuppered. So I just find it a little bit pointless, really, that they're putting this time of the season, because I want to watch Wales, for example, and I want to see Gareth Bale play a full game. I don't want to see him play 45 minutes and then come off because he's not fit enough. I want to see him play 90 minutes because he's the best player on the pitch, because he is. So,
what did you think of Nico Williams? A few people have mentioned him.
I thought he should have scored in the first game. I'll be honest. Yeah. You know, I watched both games. I thought he had a very good game in the first game. He was unlucky not to score, but I think he should have scored. I thought the second game, I thought was a bit of a quieter affair. You could tell they'd played the game a few days before, but I was so pleased when he scored, and you can tell by people's celebrations how much it means to people. And you know what I mean? That's just the first of many, because he's a very talented footballer.
Going to be a superstar.
But on that though, he needs to play. You know what I mean? Yes. So there's no point in
Cardiff.
He needs to play regular football, and you know what I mean. And Cops will back me up. You know what I mean? You get to lads at a certain age, and he's at an age now. He's got the experience of playing a few games for Liverpool. He won the He's won the Premier League. He's playing for his country, but he needs to play regular now. He needs to go and play 30, 40 games somewhere. If that's for Liverpool, great, but doubtful. He needs to go and play at the highest level he can.
Well, Cardiff signed a fullback on loan from Liverpool today, and I kind of couldn't help but wonder. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being wishful thinking, but I would like to see Nico Williams down on loan with Cardiff. But do you know much about Nico Williams, James?
No, just seen him play last season briefly, and he looked really, really good. Obviously, a special talent, and you're right. I think he does need to play. I think he sort of. It wouldn't surprise me if he got a move to a lower sort of champion Premiership team, to be honest. And played regular there, and yeah, I think he looks really exciting. And like you say, Ryan Giggs spoke highly of him yesterday, which he doesn't do if he doesn't think that the player's got an opportunity or a chance.
I think that's key, though, Si. I think he does need to go and play at the level which the club want him to platform. You know, and for me, it's the Premier League, because he's going to be going in the Premier League in the next 1, 2, 3 seasons. So he needs to get used to that Premier League environment, the way the games are. You know what I mean? The midweek cup games, for example.
Though, mate,
you know what I mean?
Does do players a lot of good. Like you look at Lingard and
at the right club, though.
Yeah,
at the right club.
And Cardiff is that right club, mate. Let's be
Love it.
It's a good thing about this show, though. We're not biased, and at least we're
very just because that's the right answer, it doesn't make it a biased answer.
No, I was going to say Middlesbrough, and then I thought twice about it.
Let's not be silly. All right, I'm done with the rest of football. So before we kind of touch on your career, James, I would like to know, what is your earliest football memory, whether it be playing, watching, just the first time that you caught the football bug?
Yeah, I think Ayresome Park in 1988. I've got a programme against Leicester and a picture with my dad at Ayresome Park. I obviously can't remember that, but that was sort of my earliest memory. And then the 1990 World Cup, Italia 90, was absolutely, it got me hook, line and sinker. I remember watching it with my dad, and obviously when Gaza got booked, like crying. I wanted Germany to win because Gaza couldn't play in the final. Yeah. So I was absolutely devastated. And Stuart Pearce, people like that, Bobby Robson. Ironically, I obviously worked with both of them at Newcastle, but I fell in love with football. I had the England kit, and I always go back to that, the Pavarotti song, Nessun Dorma. Gets me. I've got goosebumps talking about it. It gets me. So yeah, that. So what would I be? 9 years old. So 9 years old, I fell in love with football, and 30 years on, I'm still playing professional football.
As we discovered just before we went live, James, me and you are the same age exactly. So if you look at these two pictures, me and James are the youth of the side.
Ridiculous. You look like his dad. You look like his dad.
Andy's the grandfather.
One of you. I'm not going to name names, but one of you has had a really, really bad paper round.
I did have a tough paper round, to be fair.
Yeah, only because yours was uphill though, Cops.
It was hilly and Gisborough, yeah.
Yeah, that was his mates. That's what happens.
Who was your idol growing up, James?
I had a few, to be honest. I think growing up, Gaza in Italia 90, the way he played, the way he sort of just excited people. I always had an eye for players like that. But again, Stan Collymore, I used to watch Forest as a kid. Brian Clough and Desi Clough was a friend of my granddad's from Middlesbrough. So I always used to watch Nottingham Forest growing up. I wouldn't say supported them, but I loved watching them, the way they played. Stuart Pearce, Ian Warren, Mark Crossley, Brian Roy. I had some unbelievable players. But Stan Collymore, and then Juninho. So I became a season ticket holder at Middlesbrough when the Riverside opened. I went to that first game and then was a season ticket holder in the South Stand. And Juninho just absolutely changed my outlook on football. He was a similar sort of player, similar sort of diminutive, small stature, and he just took it to a different level. He was unbelievable. He was worth the entrance fee alone just to watch him. And obviously Andy played with him, and he was mesmerising at times. Every time I went and watched him, I just looked forward to going to see him.
Did you take inspiration in Cops that someone could be that good and not be fazed by anything that football threw at him with the size that he was?
100%. I think I always looked at size because I got rejected from a few football clubs for being too small. So I would always look and think. Every time I went to watch Middlesbrough play, I always looked and thought I could do that. I never looked and was in awe of them. I always thought I think I can do that. And he was one of the reasons why. He sort of inspired me. Sat there thinking, you know what? He inspired me to want to do it. I used to go down the park in Gisborough. Everywhere I went, I took a ball. And I was always wanted to be Juninho. Like I always wanted, I had sort of an imaginative, I don't know. He was the first time ever I'd ever seen somebody like that who had that sort of ability to go past people.
I don't think as a Middlesbrough fan though that we were ever given the opportunity to idolise someone of that kind of stature. You know what I mean? That we've all got our heroes from watching at Essen Park and at the Riverside and stuff. But when that rumour that he was going to come, and I'd seen him it was at some tournament at Wembley, wasn't it? When he scored a free kick against England for Brazil, when Brian Robson was assistant manager to Terry Venables, and listen, like you say, I saw what he could do in training, and I was like, he's doing this against 6'4", 15, 16 stone players. He's not scared. He's not intimidated. He's just got natural ability. He's aggressive. He's fast. He's agile. He had the lot, and I've said this loads of times that the words of world's best players get sprung left, right, and centre. That he's world class. He was world class, and he could have gone into any top side, the Barcelonas, the Real Madrids, the Inter Milans, the AC Milans of old, and not looked out of place because he was that good. But Middlesbrough got him somehow. Not really sure how.
I know it was unbelievable, and I think what got me with him is he just bounced up. He was small, but whenever he went past somebody and got brought down, he straight back up. very much like Messi does now. You know, it doesn't make the meal of it. He had a great character about him. I think that everybody at Middlesbrough warmed to and sort of could relate to, and I think that's why he was so popular as well. Not just what he did on the pitch, but what he was like off the pitch. So he was definitely my biggest hero growing up, and he probably had the biggest effect on me as a player as well.
One iconic picture from Juninho, what always sticks with me, is he's not fazed by anybody. And there's a picture with him and Philip Albert where I think he was getting some stick at St James's Park, and Philip Albert was like 6'7" or 8", wasn't he? And Juninho's looking up at him and pointing his finger, and it's just an iconic picture from the Premier League, and just shows the man really, because you know what I mean. I remember the game that straight away he wants to get back on the ball, and at the time Newcastle were head and shoulders above Middlesbrough. You know what I mean? The players that they had under Keegan, so they were far superior than what Middlesbrough could ever imagine and wherever they wanted to be. But Middlesbrough had the best player in the world at the time because he was that good. He was that good.
100%. So, how did your first chance, with academy football come about? Where were you sort of scouted, or how did your opportunity finally come?
Yeah, so I never went to an academy. I was at Middlesbrough School of Excellence for a bit, and again got told I was too small, and that I could come and play. I could come and train and do all the training, but I wouldn't be able to play for them because I was too small. And I remember
on that Cops, how disrespectful is that? Like looking back now, at the time, obviously you'll have been heartbroken and gutted because you wanted to play for that football club. I'm guessing being a Middlesbrough fan. But looking back now, though, and some of the players that you've seen, played with, played against, size is just irrelevant, really.
Well, again, ironically, I played Middlesbrough in the Youth Cup at the Riverside, and we beat them 5-0. And I played for Newcastle, and I scored. And I've never been so motivated to play in a match in my life. But I always had it with Middlesbrough. I don't know why. Again, sort of, I went to Blackpool, played Blackpool for Middlesbrough, and I stood on the sideline and I said to my dad, look, I'm not doing that again. Like, it never came on. And my dad went to see the coach and said, look, James won't be coming back to training. And he was like, what do you mean? He says, well, he's not going to travel and not play. He wants to play. And this guy couldn't believe that I'd say that. He was like, well, people would give the right arm to come and be involved with Middlesbrough. And he was like, well, James doesn't want to do it. And my dad never pushed me or anything like that. So I played for Martin Juniors all the way up to 15. We were the best team in the area. We won everything. And we went on trips to Southport. We went all over. We were absolutely top draw. Loved every minute of it. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm still playing today. Like, I've always been involved in a team sort of ethic. I think when you're at an academy, it's you're in it for yourself. It's every man for themselves. You're trying to get that contract every single year for yourself. Whereas for me, I've always been a team player. I've always been that person that wants to not inspire, but wants to affect the group, wants to help the group. I've been at I was at Martin for 8 years, and I've been at Doncaster for 17 years. I almost like that sort of that fit. So the last year, Martin, all my team went to School of Excellences, Man United, Middlesbrough, Nottingham Forest, Newcastle, Sunderland, and I didn't. I went and played with my mates in Woodgarth in a League 2 team. So at 16, I was playing Sunday League for Woodgarth, and we played Darlington, and I scored a hat-trick. Darlington Sprayer lads, I scored a hat-trick, and the Darlington scout was there, and he offered me a trial. I went on trial, and they offered me a 2-year YTS at Darlington, which I reluctantly snapped up. I mean, I'd never wanted to be a professional footballer. I never had any aspirations to be a professional footballer, but I enjoyed playing football, so I thought, you know what, I'll give it a try.
And one thing I will say, Cops, about and people who don't know, by the way, Martin Juniors are, I'd say probably certainly in the north, if not country-wise, they're one of the most famous junior football teams around, because they've had so many players who've come through to be a professional footballer. It's absolutely scary. You know what I mean? James played a couple of years younger than I did. I played for them for probably about 10 years. Ben Gibson played for them. It's endless. They do an advert on social media, and it shows all the players and who they played for. Stewie Downing, And it's the amount of players. They should be so proud of themselves for the kind of talent that they brought through, because it just started off with one team. You know what I mean? There was Gary Sykes, obviously him and his dad Keith started it out, and it's just amazing for where it is now. You know, I coach there as well to try and give something back, and it's just a lovely place for your children to go and play. And I had to give something back because they give so much to me. It's just an amazing place to platform my football.
Yeah, I loved it.
You mentioned there, James, about Darlington. So obviously, you ended up going to Darlington. So how important was learning your trade, so to speak, at a professional football club and for part of your football development?
Yeah, I think for the first time ever, I was travelling in from Gisborough. My best mate, who I'd grown up with, Mark Robinson, who you know, he started out at Hartlepool, and my cousin, who played in the St. Martin team, he started out at Middlesbrough. So between the three of us, we were all starting out our journeys in professional football, and we would all travel in on the bus. So we'd all get the bus from Gisborough to Middlesbrough. Greg would go to Middlesbrough, Mark would go to Hartlepool, and I'd get the train to Darlington. So we'd run from the bus station to the train station. We'd get the train to Darlow. I'd run from Darlington train station to Feetham's. And then I'd start sort of doing all the jobs that I do. And it was a really good grounding. I had an unbelievable youth team manager in Stuart Gibson. Really before his time, he used to sort of give me videos on different things. He used to tell me to keep a book. And this was in 1998, keep a book of all my opponents. And you know what? In that 6 months, because obviously I went to Newcastle, I learned so much with him, and just sort of, it's more life skills as well. You know, I've been in a bubble. I've been brought up in Gisborough. I'd never really ventured outside of it. So for me, it was really exciting, and it was tough, but something that I really enjoyed.
You mentioned life skills. You mentioned jobs and stuff. So I'm a massive advocate for it, and an advocate for scholars who get paid obviously a little bit more than we did when we were YDSs. You know what I mean? I'm open and honest and tell everybody that I got paid £37.50 for my first year, £42.50 for my second year, and I was delighted with that. That £5 pay rise, by the way, made a huge difference. But doing jobs, mate, I'm the same as you. That I used to get into training at like 8:30 and make sure my pros boots, kit, everything was set out. You know what I mean, pristine, and then I would look after myself, and then I would get the balls for the first team, and then I would train myself, and then I would come in, clean up, do other jobs. And it was just, you know what I mean? I learned so much in a short space of time by doing that, and everything, and the skills that I've got now. You know what I mean? People will say that I don't clean up. I do clean up around the house, but I learned everything that I got from that time.
Yeah, we were. It was unbelievable. We were painting the grounds. We were mopping up. We'd have Stuart come down, and if there was dust anywhere, we'd do it again. Our players' boots, there was no mud allowed on the soles of the boots, and there was like crevices and stuff, and you could come check him. If there was any bit of mud, you'd throw him and you'd be starting again. It was relentless, but like what you said, it's standards, isn't it? It's setting them standards every single day in so many different ways.
Bear in mind, people might see this and listen to this and think this is the bullying, and I don't see it as that. I see this as character building, and I see the same thing.
Dave Geddes used the job properly, isn't it?
Well, it is. Dave Geddes used to do the same thing.
Do something properly.
At Ayresome Park, we had a cupboard, and it was locked, and Dave Geddes had the only key for it. And we did all our jobs. And if one of the jobs wasn't done to the standard that he had at 4 or 5 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, he would pour the contents of this cupboard all over the floor, and it would be dirty water from the week before. It would be cleaning products, you know what I mean, which we'd all have to muck in and do it again. But this was character building. It was standards of the highest order. You know what I mean? He had the high standard. He wanted to drill it into us, and for me, I saw it as a good thing. And for me, and I've said it on here, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again. That was the happiest time in my football life, and if I could go back to any time in my football life, it would go back to them, because we had a laugh, we enjoyed football. Life wasn't as complicated as it is currently, so it was all fun and all good.
I think you create characters, don't you? I think if it's done in the right way, and listen, there was things that stepped over the mark back then. There was things that happened that don't happen now for the right reasons, but at the same time, you can't take it all you have to take bits out of it and go, that actually was really good for us, and that was really good for us as well. And a lot of it is down to standards. It is about understanding that you have got a responsibility, not just on the pitch. You have to set standards off the pitch, be on time, discipline, all these things that fall into being a professional footballer. And I think it's huge. But when I went to Newcastle, so I was 17, I got moved to Newcastle, and then none of them did jobs when I went to Newcastle. So I'm at a League Two club, I go to a Premier League club, and they're all sort of swanning about doing nothing. So it was a total different mindset from where I was to where I went. And yeah, I definitely think that that did stand me in good stead, though.
How did you find the Yeah, I was just about to ask the same question. So you just said that
transition like.
Yeah, what happened was I went on an England trial while I was playing for Darlington. I was doing really well. England wanted me to go there. I went to Lilleshall, and I roomed with Paul Konchesky, who has had a fantastic career. Obviously, went to Liverpool, Charlton, proper Cockney lad, and me from Gisborough, not wanting to say hello to anybody, really sort of timid. I went there, and the first day I almost got sort of cast aside. It was like the lads that are going to be in the team will play against the academies, the other lads will play against themselves. So I ended up playing in this other game. I scored a hat-trick and was unbelievable. So then they ended up picking me, and I ended up going to Poland. So I ended up representing my country, going to Warsaw while I was playing for Darlington. So Newcastle obviously found this out, played against Newcastle a few times. And I remember one of the first team pros must have got wind of me maybe moving to Newcastle. And he said it to me, and I was like, he must be winding me up here. So I never thought anything of it. It was Brian Atkinson, actually, who I did his boots. And then David Hodgson, the manager, called me into his office, and I was going up there. I remember we had porter cabins, and I was walking up the stairs thinking, oh my God, what have I done here? Like, I can't have painted the dressing rooms properly, or because he was quite strict. So I got in his office, and he was like,
Hodgie is strict.
Yeah. He got in his office, and he was like, your dad's coming up. And I was like, oh my God. He was like, he's bringing your suit, and you're going up to Newcastle to sign for Newcastle. This was deadline day, and I was 17, and I was like, what? And he went, he's coming up, he's picking you up now, and you're driving up. You and Paul Robinson are going to sign for Newcastle. So we drove up, deadline day. I signed a contract 20 times worth what I was on. My mum and dad couldn't believe it, obviously. And yeah, I signed a 3-year contract at Newcastle on deadline day. One day I was training with the YTs, the next day I was training with Kenny Dalglish, Alan Shearer, Stuart Pearce, John Barnes, Ian Rush, all these, Albert. It was unbelievable. It was something that, again, I'd never appreciated at the time, and probably sort of never will, really.
I didn't know Robbo was part of the deal. I know Robbo really well.
It was 1.8 million for me and Robbo, and yeah, I'd never actually played for Darlington's first team, so it was unbelievable. Again, it was Nike sponsorships thrown at me literally as I walked through the door. It's a different world, isn't it? Going to a club like that. So we were in the boardroom, we got the glass lift up to the top of St James's Park, and looked out onto the pitch, and it was like, wow, this is
overnight.
Exactly, overnight. But nothing changed for me off the pitch. So still had the same mates, still doing the same things. But yeah, so I was at a Premier League club.
How influential then? Because you just mentioned your dad there. So how influential was Dad in keeping your feet on the ground and advising you and helping you out around that kind of move? Because it's obviously you're still his baby. You know what I mean? You're still a young lad. You know what I mean? You want to go and progress, and your life's changed overnight playing with these kind of players. But so how influential was family?
I had this conversation with my dad today, and not because I'm coming on here, just because I'm doing other things, and this has a huge part in what I'm trying to do, helping other people. But my dad at the time was going through his own. He just divorced. My mum and dad had divorced, and he was going through a lot of sort of things in the background. And if he said to me today, like, I didn't know what to do for the best. So it's the first time he'd experienced anything like this. We didn't have anybody in our circle that had ever experienced anything like this. So he was almost trusting the people who you shouldn't trust, like agents and people within the football club, and all the people that really just want to jump on you because you moved to a Premier League club, not because he's your son. So I speak about it all the time, about how important it is to have the right people around you, whether it mentors, agents, family members, people outside of your circle.
Have you ever had any bad experiences, James, with like agents and stuff?
We all have. We all have.
I think everybody does get to that point. I think as soon as I signed for Newcastle, I had an agent in my front room, and he brought his blonde girlfriend who sat with him, and it was like me and my dad were sat on the sofa thinking, what is going on here? Like what do you do? Like, because we didn't know what to do. We genuinely didn't know what to do was like for the best. So we sort of just making the best of it, trying to do what we think's right. But you live and learn, and that's why, again, I go back to why it's so important that 23 years as a professional footballer, almost experiencing everything that there is to experience. That's why I'm so passionate about helping other people.
But I think that's key, though, isn't it? You know what I mean? Because you get in the wrong crowd, you listen to the wrong advice, you go down the wrong avenue, then all of a sudden, before you know it, your career's finished, and you've got regrets left, right, and centre because you've not listened to the people who count. You know what I mean? Your close friends want the best for you, but they won't jeopardise that. You know what I mean? Your family certainly won't do that, and it's a testament to you, and especially your family, mate, that how you've become the person you are. You know what I mean? From the obviously from the young lad that I always knew and grew up with to still playing now is just absolutely fantastic, which is great. But on top of that, though. Obviously, you signed for Newcastle. Obviously, the big transfer fee between the two of you. Did you ever find out what the transfer fee was, though, for James Coppinger?
Yeah, I was the 1.7 and Robbo was the 100 grand.
You were the 1.79. You were the 1.79. He was nothing. Tell you.
Yeah, no, and he'll tell you the opposite. Yeah,
Robbo will tell you 2.5 mil.
Yeah, he was a one-off.
He was
a lovely lad.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If I've never met anybody who was so self-assured and confident in himself. He was the opposite of me at the time. But deep down, he was a lovely lad, and
he was.
Yeah, it was a big step for both of us. You know what? We both went on and played for Newcastle, although it'd be very brief. But again,
did you feel the pressure though, Cops? Did you feel the pressure of a transfer fee?
I didn't feel the pressure of anything. I was just playing football. I said this again recently that in an article for the Chronicle that the 4 years I was at Newcastle, I never once believed I should have been there. I always questioned in myself why these people. Why am I signing? Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I totally agree, and I think,
like it was almost like it was like why have I been chosen? Like why have they chose me? Like I was playing with players that were as good as me. So for 4 years, I was constantly battling against myself.
But you do though, you doubt yourself though, don't you? Because I said I've said the same thing, and I said it on was it Friday's show? You know what I mean? I was probably in the top, the bottom two of ability wise in my youth team. You know what I mean? I had some like Ant Ormerod, Andy Swalwell, Paul Connor. You know what I mean? These kind of players they were far greater than me, as in ability wise. But I had things, my attributes, my pace, my attitude, my desire, things that nobody else had, and I wanted to be a professional footballer more than the other nine. You know what I mean? That's how much I wanted to do. I wanted to play for my club. I wanted to play in the Premier League. I wanted to play at Ayson Park. Didn't get the opportunity because of transition of a ground, but that was just circumstances. But when they moved to Riverside, I wanted to do that, and I made sure that I'd walk over my own family members to do it in a certain way. You know, I was so determined to do it, and that's the same thing. What you've just said there, you know, that but then you doubt yourself because it's just a natural thing to do, because you doubt yourself after a bad performance, after a good performance. Was it good enough? Was it? You spend a lot of time doubting yourself as a professional footballer.
I think you do, and again, I go back to why I'm huge on mental performance, and it changed my life and my career, changing my outlook. And back then at Newcastle, I had none of it. So I was literally turning up to training, playing football, which I loved, and going home and playing with my mates and just eating the wrong things and doing the wrong things. I never had any professionalism. I had never had any sort of. I wasn't a strong enough character. And I look at Gary Caldwell, Stevie Caldwell, Aaron Hughes, all played for their countries, all had Premier League careers. And I wanted to be them. So I wanted to work harder in the gym. I wanted to do more, but I never allowed myself to do that because I was too scared of all the people that were going, look at that busy whatever, and look at that lad, and look at, like, I can't believe he's doing that. Who does he think he is? Like, I wasn't strong enough within myself to make them conscious decisions. So again, when things changed for me at 21, when I started changing my thinking and developing sort of what I call a professional mindset, like, that allowed me to gain that confidence and that belief and that understanding of what it actually is. But at the time, I had none of it.
So on that then, so obviously we'll go full circle because it just seems like a perfect opportunity to not mention it. You obviously started a company which obviously focuses on and is called Pro Mindset. So tell people what it is, tell people what's involved in it, and how it helps other people as well as yourself.
Yeah, it's basically based around developing a professional mindset. For me, like I just said there, in my 4 years at Newcastle, I never had any understanding of what it was. I didn't really think about sort of what was going on. It was almost like a realization that I was in control. I talk about how you think dictates how you feel dictates how you act, and how you act determines your results. And then when I realized that and analyzed everything that had happened to me before, it was unbelievable. So I just started to change my thinking, started to develop different things, started to work with a mentor, started to work with different people. Like subsequently, I've gone on to play over 650 games, 3 promotions, cup finals, play at Wembley. But I've also done different things off the pitch as well. So it's about trying to help and make people aware of what it is. And we're doing it every day. You know, you make decisions on how you feel every single day. And it's all about understanding how to control your thinking to get the best possible result, if that makes sense.
Yeah, cool. 100%. And I think it's key, though, because you mentioned there that it wasn't available for you at Newcastle, and that's one of the biggest clubs at the country at the time. You know what I mean? There wasn't anything like that at Middlesbrough. It was more, you know what I mean? It was more that you kept things to yourself. You were scared to talk to people about how you were feeling, what was going on, if that was good or bad. You know, they're similar to you. That I remember that my mum and dad got divorced, and I was 17, and I was going into training the next day, and you know what I mean. So I was going through a lot, and you know what I mean. It was. Do you speak to somebody? Do you not speak to somebody? Do you show your weakness, so to speak? Because that's what it felt like back then. It felt like a weakness. You know what I mean? Where now there's a lot of people who you can talk to about various things who've been through that kind of experience and can help you and guide you along the way.
Yeah, but it's not just about that as well. I like mental health and different things like that. It's more about understanding how you can develop resilience, how you can develop sort of leadership, how you can develop professionalism, all these things. Like for me personally, I struggled to perform on a Saturday until I understood that there's two parts of your mind. One was conscious and one's unconscious. And that I started to get into an unconscious state every single time I played a game. But before that, I was conscious. So I'd go on the pitch and I'd be affected by the fans. I'd be affected by my teammates. I'd be affected by anybody that said anything to me. But what I ended up doing is trusting myself, trusting the things that I've been doing since I was 8 years old on the football pitch. I've scored goals. I scored a hat-trick in the playoff semi-final and I can't even remember scoring it. And that's what I'm saying. It's almost like strategies and tools and different things that you can teach yourself to improve your performance. It's not just about sort of having things going on in the background. It's about what you choose to do to improve your performance. And I think if you think about it, it's so difficult as a 16-year-old leaving school, been thrust into the real wide world and also been thrust into the football environment. It's a double whammy for me. It's like, go on then, sink or swim, because I don't feel like players and young kids get enough support. It's not. They should be given.
Ask that. Like, just sorry to interrupt you, James. I was just going to ask.
No, it's all right.
I was going to ask you both really about, like, don't most clubs have sports psychologists who would do this, like that sort of thing, or is that not like something which every club would have? Maybe it would only be the top clubs. I'm not.
Yeah, no, you're right. I've been speaking to a lot of clubs throughout the summer, Premier League clubs, League One, League Two clubs, and the LFE, the League Football Education. about what I'm doing with Pro Mindset, and a lot of them are doing it, a lot of them aren't doing it, a lot of them sort of tick boxes. And for me, I won't name the club, but it's at the forefront of everything that they do. One of the most successful clubs in the country. Mental performance and this sort of thing is at the forefront of everything that they do. And I was like, hallelujah. Like, that is like music to my ears, because it should be. And it doesn't surprise me that they're the best club in the world, or they're the best club in Europe, or they're the best club in the country, because...
So it's Cardiff.
I knew that was coming.
Thing is, you set it up for him. You set it up.
I know.
Set it up.
But it just amazes me that I think in the next 5-10 years, sort of this will become apparent. But what is really difficult is, because mental performance and anything around psychology and mindset, you can't actually see it, so you can't measure it, and people find it so difficult to understand what it is and what it looks like. And that's the problem that you have, is nobody wants to, or nobody understands what it is. You know, if you go in the gym and you want to get bigger, you can see yourself getting bigger. If you want to go work on crossing or shooting or heading, you can actually see yourself getting better. You can actually see it. But to work on your mind, you can't actually see it. So in my opinion, my job, once I finish football, developing this, is getting it across in the right way, so that people understand how important it is day to day. You know, how you can change your thinking day to day, not just when something goes wrong, but how you can affect yourself every single day. You've got 16 to 18 months as a young kid to prove that you can get a professional contract. So why not give yourself the best opportunity by working on your mental sort of performance, your mental toughness, your resilience? I hear it constantly from coaches and managers. It's the biggest component that people talk about, is mentality. But nobody knows what it is. Nobody knows how to work on it. And I'm almost saying, look, this is how you can do it. So I've had a really good response, and I'm working with clubs and players, and it's been really, really eye-opening.
Yeah.
So when you guys were playing, very quickly. No, when you guys were younger players, like sort of starting out your career, like, and James, you said like you struggled with kind of believing in yourself. What sort of support was there for you guys from that point of view, from a mental health point of view, from a, you know, just helping you with your mentality? And was it literally just the coaches who would have been available for you at that time, or was there other sort of support staff who would have been there to try and help them?
Nothing. Again, I had this conversation.
Problem, for academy, like young players, I think that's a real problem.
But no, I wouldn't say nobody cares. It's a cutthroat industry, and you have to work it out yourself. It's sink or swim, literally. And the amount of players that I've seen with more ability than me, Andy will tell you, more ability than him, that have fallen by the wayside because they can't handle disappointment, they can't handle setbacks, they can't handle being told they're not good enough, they can't handle. Do you know what I mean? It's sad, and that's what I want to try and help with. But at the same time, I never struggled with self-belief. I struggled with confidence. So I've always believed in myself. I've always believed that I'm as good as any single player that I play on the pitch with. But I never pushed myself forward. Whenever I went on trial, I'd sit in the background. I never had the confidence to put myself forward in a position, probably fear of failure, really.
Yeah, interesting that. I was quite lucky to get a small insight in it before I left for Cardiff, but when Steve McLaren came into Middlesbrough, he brought in Bill Bezic, and obviously Bill was a psychologist and has done really well within the sporting industry. And I don't think, well, I'll be honest, I didn't take it as seriously as I should have taken it. You know, as a young lad, you just think that someone's talking to you about red lights and green lights and things, and you don't take it as seriously as you do. You know, that was my response. That, you know what I mean, stay in the red, stay in the green, don't go in the red. And you're just thinking it's a bit of a game show or a bit of a statement. And when you left and you go down the pub and you talk about his lads, you start taking the mick out of him, and straight away all the good work which has just been done has just been undone straight away. And you know what I mean? It's only when you get a little bit older and you think of times that you probably could have used that kind of focus. You know what I mean? That you didn't take it seriously, so you lost the kind of knowledge and understanding of what you needed. But you know, I think there's a lot more. You know what I mean? Thanks to obviously the work that you're doing. I do think the PFA could be a little bit better. And probably involve themselves more on the day-to-day basis, going into clubs, helping people out, being being the person to talk to before it's too late. You know, that we've obviously on the show, you know what I mean? Obviously, I lost a good friend of mine this year, ex-teammate of mine. And, you know, that I just think if people knew what was happening or there was someone there to talk to, and when we're in 2020, you know, that these things do happen, but they shouldn't happen as much. And, you know what I mean? If we can just reach out and help one person, 2 people, 10 people, you know what I mean? Then these people are going to be in a better mindset and a better position to move forward in life, not just in football, because it's current football, ex-footballers, footballers who've been in the game and not in the game, or wanting to be in the game and who aren't in the game. And you know what I mean? Like James just said there, it's a cutthroat industry. It can be, or is, the best place in the world. But you tell me 3 days later, I'll tell you it's the worst place in the world, or it's the worst job in the world, because it's that different, and that's after a good game, bad game, indifferent argument with a manager, with a player, with a fan. You know what I mean? Listen to the radio, read a newspaper. There's various things that can put you into that mindset and in that kind of mood, so to speak.
But it should become the norm. That's what I'm saying. Like when you talk about Bill Bezic and people, it wasn't. I hate using this word, but it wasn't cool to do that. It wasn't current. Like people will be like, Andy Campbell's doing this. What an absolute idiot! Or why is he struggling? You don't have to do it. You don't have to do it just because you're struggling. Like if I say to you, personal development, I call it, and I always go back to I want to be the best person that I can be. I want to be the best footballer. I want to be the best husband, the best father, whatever it is. And it might sound over the top, and to a lot of people it is, but that's just the way I am. So how can I be that? How can I be that person? And I've almost gone out and found ways of doing it. But it should become the norm. It should be. We don't even have to talk about it because everybody's doing it. But people are doing it. This is what amazes me. Like you go out of the football industry and you go into different industries, business, for example, and people are doing it. Everybody's doing it. Everybody's working on themselves. Everybody's working on personal development, self-development. It's just I think football is a little bit behind, but I genuinely think it will get there.
Yeah, I totally agree.
It's behind other sports as well, isn't it?
No, I agree totally. Obviously losing a bit of time, so we're gonna go back a little bit. You mentioned a hat trick in a playoff semi-final. That was against Southend. You know what I mean? I have been doing my research. Some of your highlights at Donny, by the way, are just out of this world.
Unbelievable.
Your first goal against Bristol City, your hat trick against Southend United. Obviously, the playoff final against Leeds United at Wembley, which we will touch on that in a minute, which is an unbelievable occasion, game, result. Promotions, obviously one in particular, which obviously we had Rob Jones on the show on Friday. And obviously, you know what I mean, there's the iconic and famous game at Brentford, which, you know what I mean, is famous for him being a centre-half, being involved within the penalty and saying various things to the lad to get the penalty away. But then it obviously had a bigger impact on you as a player and you as a lad, and the games that you've played, the recognition that you've had from fans, peers, managers. You know what I mean? I read something that you've played with something like 250 plus players at Doncaster. That's just it's outrageous. It's absolutely outrageous.
And you were one of them.
I was one of them. But it's outrageous. It's outrageous. But it's just ridiculous. But let's go through the highlights then. So, do you remember much about your first ever goal against Bristol City?
Yeah, it came after obviously I struggled to score for a while. Hence, what I've been talking about.
I did read that. Yeah. But I didn't want to.
No, again, it comes down to what I was talking about. Sort of, I struggled. I was the best player in training by a country mile every single day, and then come to Saturday, I had sort of, I wouldn't say performance anxiety, but I was struggling to perform for so many different reasons. And then sort of started working on different things. Scored against Man City in the Carling Cup when we beat Man City on penalties against David James. And then I think it was the game after that I scored against Bristol City, a header. And yeah, it was a massive relief.
Header yeah. for a small man as well. That's
glancing header. I've scored a few headers to be fair. I don't know how. But yeah, it was a weight off my shoulders and something that I do remember.
That's one question I was going to ask. You know what I mean? After going a period of time without a goal and you're doing well in training but it's just not working out in games or you're not getting that break, how much relief did you feel after that kind of moment?
Yeah, and I watched it back the other day. Actually, they do have footage of it back then in black and white. But
I was just about to say that, but then I'm killing myself then.
Yeah, But you could see everybody ran over to me and celebrated, and it was like you could see the relief in everybody else, not just me. So it was a great weight off my shoulders. But I'm not a goal scorer. I've never have been prolific. I do get satisfaction out of scoring goals. Don't get me wrong. But I get just as much satisfaction out of setting goals up and being that person that plays my role within the team. I know I've talked about it before, but it was good for me to score that goal.
So on that comment, so you mentioned earlier on about the 10 role, and you don't see yourself as a forward. So what's your favourite position, and what kind of player do you see yourself as, or have been, or have you had to adapt your role a little bit over the years?
Yeah, definitely. I was a right winger when I was at Martin, so I was an up and down winger. Then played front for Darlington, England, Newcastle, made my Premier League debut up front with Alan Shearer. And then when I left Newcastle, I went to Hartlepool twice on loan, played in midfield, then played on the wing for Exeter, played up front for Exeter. And then things started to change within football. It wasn't like a 4-4-2. We started to play like a diamond. I was number 10. Then I played the right of a 4-3-3, left of a 4-3-3. Now I've been playing sort of in the 4-2-3-1, playing in behind the 9. So there's so many different variations, but managers have given me the opportunity to sort of make the role myself. If we do play with two wide, I come in from the line. I do mix it up. I have that sort of variation to my game. But for me personally, I think as a player, you have to be able to adapt. Adaptability is one of the biggest things. You can't I don't think you can pigeonhole yourself into one position nowadays. Especially in my sort of position, as a front man, it's like, can you play in this? Can you play in that? Gone are the days when you're a winger and you just run up and down. It's just changed totally.
So you mentioned there about managers. So I won't put you on the spot and say which is the best and the worst, but which manager's given you the most freedom to excel your talent?
Sean O'Driscoll at the time at Doncaster. We obviously won at Wembley. We won at the Millennium Stadium. We had 3 seasons in the Championship, highest the club's ever finished for, almost ever. And he was unbelievable for me personally. His structure, which I like. Darren Ferguson, unbelievable for me. Played me in a number 10. Built everybody not built the team around me, but I was a huge focal point in us getting promoted after getting relegated. Got in team of the season, player of the season, and I'd say that was down to him, the way he played me.
What's Darren Ferguson like, if you don't mind me asking, James? He's got a really good record at sort of Championship League One.
He's got a good reputation as well.
I love him. I think he's absolutely top drawer. A little bit difficult time at Doncaster because we got relegated the first season. He came in sort of 9-10 games in. Almost walked into not a losing mentality, but a difficult situation with the club in transition. Got us promoted first time of asking. I would have liked him to stay, but at the same time, it is what it is. Keep in contact with him. Always asks how I'm doing. Every time I speak to him, he's one of the best I've worked with, if I'm being honest.
There's a question and a half. Craig Sullivan says, which stadium is the best, Wembley or the Millennium Stadium?
It's a good question.
I like that.
For me, it's Wembley just because of how iconic it is. I went to watch Middlesbrough play in the Zenith Data Systems Cup final.
Yeah, I was cried that day
against Chelsea. Yeah, I did. And then I watched them get beat
for a while.
Against Chelsea.
Do you know what? Tony Dorigo, I used to love Tony Dorigo, right? But from that day alone, I can't stand the fella.
Yeah, and then I watched them
get
beat against Leicester at Wembley, get beat against Chelsea at Wembley. I watched Newcastle get beat against Man United at Wembley. And then I went and won at Wembley.
Let's stop there. Do you think it's the club's fault, or do you think it's you?
Yeah, definitely me. But for me, Wembley, like Millennium Stadium, was the first time I'd experienced anything like that, and it gave me the taste. The season after we went to Wembley, beat Leeds, and for Doncaster Rovers to beat Leeds United at Wembley. Wow, it was unreal. It was almost written in the stars, I think.
What was the atmosphere like? Because I watched that game, and you know, I mean, I was intrigued to watch it because I knew quite a lot of players on both sides of the pitch, and it just looked, you know what I mean, it looked like everything was against you. You know what I mean? That everyone expected Leeds to win. There was a bigger club. I think they just turned up. I'm not saying you fully deserve to win the game on the day. You know what I mean? But they just, I don't know. There was something about it where just the whole world just expected Leeds to win that playoff final.
Yeah, and they did. They turned up. We went to look around the ground before the day before, and we were supposed to go after Leeds, and we bumped into each other. And as we were walking around the ground, they were laughing and joking. They were taking videos of everything, and it was like, you know, it was almost, we had a feel as a group of players that these think they've won this. Yeah. And it was almost as a group, we had a real good togetherness and a real good bond. We missed out on the last day of the season in getting promoted. We should have beat Cheltenham, and we got beat, and we went into the playoffs. We obviously beat Southend, and then I almost felt like we were going to win. You know, as being underdogs, it was like they think they've won, and we I think we've got this, and I think we deserve to win on the day as well.
Yeah. So what was it like then? So obviously it's something that I'd always dreamed of as a boy who was playing at Wembley. You know, there was a few disappointments in my career that I didn't get an opportunity to do it, but walking up the Wembley steps, you know what I mean, is something which just, you know what I mean, it's just something that it's that dream, isn't it? You know what I mean, that I was brought up on with the FA Cup, you know what I mean. The FA Cup is a big part of my life as a fan, as a player. Still now love it, you know what I mean. But what was it like to do all that?
I think 70, 80,000 people there. Sort of the atmosphere, the expectation, the whole sort of day. My family there. Again, like you said, it's something growing up, sort of watching cup finals there, seeing teams walk out, and you're doing it yourself. I genuinely don't think you appreciate it at the time, especially I didn't. Looking back, watching sort of the videos of us walking up, getting the trophy, walking out the tunnel before the game, I was so privileged to actually start the game and be involved to the point where you walk away as a winner. I think a lot of people that play at Wembley and get beat, it's just not the same.
Yeah, and I totally agree, and I don't think you realise how much of an impact you've made on an occasion, on a club, on a day, until you look back. I think, you know what I mean. You'll probably look back in 5 years' time and look back at it all and go, wow, you know what I mean. Everything I've achieved, which is just amazing. You know what I mean. Promotions, goals, this, that, and it's just, you know what I mean. I find it that I probably didn't realise half the things that I did were as good as what they are until you probably retire, or people tell you, or other people tell you, or people's tell you, and you know what I mean. It's just amazing. It is just the best thing in the world. But obviously, I mentioned earlier on that we had obviously Rob Jones was on the show on Friday, and we had a good chat about we had a good chat about various players, and you mentioned one of them. You mentioned Billy Sharp. You know what I mean, and he mentioned obviously David Cottrell. So, you know what I mean? As a football club, you've got Billy Sharp, you've got yourself, you've got DC, you've got people who. How can you not achieve success when you've got those kind of players? You know, whipping crosses in, attacking, scoring goals. It must be a dream. And how that club's evolved over the years since you've been there to see those kind of players mingling in at the same time.
Yeah, and we weren't performance-wise, we were terrible. We got beat 4-0 at MK Dons that season, and I'm not even lying to you. I walked off that pitch thinking, I don't want to play football ever again. It was the worst performance I've ever seen. But we had a group of players that knew how to win football matches. And when I see people talking about different things, about performances, about this, that, and the other, it was like we had 11 leaders, we had 11 winners in that team. You go through the team, and every single one of them has gone on or had a good career. And I think we knew that, you know, to actually win the league above Bournemouth that season was unbelievable after getting relegated, obviously, the season before. To bounce back at the first time of asking in the magnitude of, obviously, the Brentford game was unbelievable.
I see. You mentioned that then. So obviously, Rob was telling us, and you'll probably write me if I'm wrong here, but I think in 90 minutes you were promoted in second place behind Bournemouth.
Yeah.
And then obviously a minute later, potentially you're going to be in the playoffs, which was going to be an absolute nightmare. And then a few minutes later on, you won the league. which was just, you know what I mean? You can't write things like that, can you? But like Rob talked us through it from his point of view, and obviously told us that he gave Jamie
McCoom.
He gave him an evil stare. He said he said some not very nice things, which out of frustration, which we've all been there, we've done. But how did you see it all? Because he told us a story about Billy Painter as well. That Billy was that gutted and devastated that he was sat on the bench.
He was sat by the bench. Yeah,
but he's obviously the one who set your goal up.
Yeah, the ball broke to him. He was just sat on the sideline praying that
talk us to the event and talk us to, in your opinion, how the last few minutes unfolded.
It was like Rob said. It was we all we had to do was draw the game, which I think is always a tricky position to be. We managed the game really well. We got right down to the 90th minute, and Jamie McCoom almost kicked somebody's head off, and they got a penalty. I'm stood on the halfway line, thinking I can't believe we've got another 3 weeks of this. Travelling up and down from Middlesbrough in the Kia, we all drove up together. Honestly, the things that go through your head in the space of sort of 10, 20 seconds is unbelievable. Neil Sullivan was in goal at the time, and did I fancy him? I just fancied this lad. I know there was some argy-bargy. The guy that was taking the penalty shouldn't have took the penalty. He smashed it against the bar. All hell's broke loose, and the ball's sort of. I'm looking at the ball. The ball's kicked. I've turned my back, thinking it's gone out for a throw-in, and Billy Painter's come on the pitch from nowhere. So I've just turned around and seen every single one of their players just fell to the floor, apart from one of their lads who, I know I'm not quick, but he was slow. So I thought there's a chance I can get it. I can get into the box here. So I just ran. You see me on the video, just running the full length of the pitch, hoping that Billy would square it to me. And ironically, again, sort of me and Billy have constantly fallen out at the training ground because he never squares the ball. So I'm running thinking there's no way he's squaring this. He runs, squares it, and I score, and then we go up as champions. And it's absolutely, again, you couldn't write it. It was one of the best ends to the season.
One thing I did ask Rob, but you'll probably have a better insight to it. That I said to him, was he surprised that the amount of, or the lack of defending by Brentford at that moment in time, that sent everybody forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How did you feel about that?
Yeah, no, definitely. And again, I think it was just, we talk about sort of their thinking. You don't think you're gonna miss, do you? They're 100% thinking they're up. All he's got to do is stick it in the back of the net.
Yeah, well, I said to Rob, I thought, are they all going forward in the expectation of he's scoring, we're all celebrating because we won the league, or we're doing, I think that kind of mentality. And unfortunately, it's backfired. And instead of still being promoted, you know what I mean, or whatever, you know what I mean. Instead of having a chance to get promoted to try and go and get another goal, they found themselves in a right mess.
I think they knew as well that there was like you say, I took my shirt off, threw it in the crowd. Everything got back to normal, and I didn't have a shirt, so I had to take one of the sub shirts, put it on. I think it was Kyle Bennett. I had Bennett on the back. I literally walked onto the pitch, and the ref blew for full time. Michael Oliver blew for full time. So quality. Whether they've had enough time or not is another question.
Yeah, no, quality. It's amazing, and what a career you've had. But obviously, I know we haven't got a long time, but we're gonna go on live questions which we've got from the live viewers. But one question I want to finish from us is what does the future, or where does the future lie for James Coppinger? So, are we going to see you one day as a manager, as a coach? Where will we see you next when you do finally hang the boots up? Because let's be honest, there's you're hitting 40 soon. The over 40s is calling, I think.
And I'll definitely be playing over 40s. I love playing football. So although I'll be retiring from professional football, I definitely think that there'll be some sort of somebody somewhere that'll want me, and that I could sort of keep ticking over and keep sort of enjoying it. I do wake up every morning enjoying it. But for now, I don't think I'll go into management. I don't think I'll be very surprised if I go into coaching, although I take both my kids' teams and really, really enjoy it. But I've got obviously other things, Kicks Academy, sort of in Redcar, in Middlesbrough, hopefully Gisborough soon, Stockton, trying to help young kids develop.
Tell people about that then, James, because it's all over social media. If you look at James on all platforms, especially LinkedIn, I know you took your kids, or you went there the other day, didn't you? When you had a
Saturday off.
Or something.
Yeah, my daughter goes in. I just really like the franchise. There's 40 franchises across the country. It's a family-based sort of business, and it's just about having fun. It's at 2. They start at 2 and go to 6, and it's just about kids coming, trying to build that environment where they can learn, they can improve, the parents get involved. It's a really good feel, and I was absolutely blown away at the weekend because I don't get down that often, but I was blown away by the coaches and what we're trying to create, and we've created. So yeah, Redcar, Middlesbrough, Gisborne, and Stockton, hopefully soon. But I'm really enjoying it. And on top of that, I've got other things going on. Business. I've been in sort of business for the last 18 months with sort of a company that are buying businesses, and then with Pro Mindset that I've been going 5 years with, sort of helping players. So there's a lot going on, and that's hence why one of the reasons why I'm going to retire at the end of the season. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to it. You know what? People talk about how good football is and play for as long as you can. But for me personally, I feel like what I'm going to do next is going to be just as enjoyable.
Well, I'll finish by saying absolute credit to what you've decided to do, because when it's taken away from you, I think sometimes, you know what I mean, it can leave a sour taste, but you're doing it in the right way. You're doing it on your terms. You're doing it at the time when you believe is right for yourself, for your wife, for your family, you know what I mean? And you're going to get the send-off that you fully deserve. And I hope you get the send-off that you fully deserve. I fully hope that the crowds are back in, and James Coppinger obviously has had a testimonial, but you get the send-off like a testimonial in terms of acknowledgement from people, because there's not many people who have a career like you've had, but then spend so much time at one club, you know what I mean, that it's few and far between. No,
I appreciate that. And you know what? It will be sad. It's been my life for 17 years, and it will be a sad day. I've been a professional footballer since I left school. You know what it feels like, Andy, to stop doing it. And it's not something that I'm thinking about right now, but it will be a sad day when that happens.
Honestly, don't, because it's you know what I mean, you enjoy what you've got, what you're doing, and then, because things are, you're a long time retired, there's a lot going on in your life, which is great, kids, family, business, other stuff, but you know what I mean, enjoy this while it is, because you know what I mean, you got to save every moment, haven't you? And if you can get some success at the back of it and finish on a real high, imagine that ultimate dream.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and I appreciate you having me on, and it's been really enjoyable. I've loved it.
Okay, so let's finish with a couple of questions from the live chat, which have been stored up. So, first of all, James F wants to know, what is James Coppinger's favourite fruit?
Just a random question.
No, I was speaking to my son about this. A banana.
Why?
As simple as that. Potassium.
It's big in sport, though, isn't it? It's big in sport.
I've always loved banana with everything. I have dry banana, carbohydrates. But yeah, I am a sort of a big advocate for bananas. I don't know why, and I don't think my kids are that fond of them, to be honest. So I get them all.
I think it's time you get a banana sponsorship deal.
Yeah, so do I.
It should be an orange. It should be an orange for Team Orange.
It should be. I was expecting
that. James Costley says, what was it like playing at Ninian Park as an opposition player?
Yeah, class. Always sort of hostile. It was tough because we played at Ninian Park. When did the move?
Top of my head.
When did I leave? 2006 I left. So yeah, 2007, 8.
Right.
8, 7,
so
8,
I played
9,
at both stadiums, and Craig Bellamy, actually, we played when he came back, and I think he scored. I think he scored against us. I might have been a free kick.
I think I've seen that goal, by the way. It was a great goal as well.
Yeah, and obviously it was always tough against Cardiff. They had some good players, and they were always up there. Witts obviously played as well. Who it was sad. Obviously, last year or this year that happened. But it was always tough going there, and you knew you were in for a fight.
Yes.
You've made loads of friends now, by the way, saying all that.
Yeah, that's it. Richie said, does James have a favourite stadium or ground apart from Wembley or the team's home grounds that he's played for?
We played at the Emirates against Arsenal in the Carabao Cup a couple of seasons ago, and that was unreal. So the way that ground has been designed and the sort of what it offers, it was very much like Wembley and the Millennium Stadium in how big it was, and it was an unbelievable atmosphere on the night. We got beat 1-0, but yeah, I really enjoyed playing there.
Part of me wanted you to say Feetham's for a little bit there, because Feetham's was
yeah, Victoria Park as well. That was always windy.
Yeah, very, very.
James F says, what's your opinions on Sadler's move to Rotherham?
Yeah, it's a little sour taste. Obviously, been rivals, but Sads did unbelievable last year. He was, again, sort of one of these players that had sort of and ahed and sort of huffed and puffed, but he had a real opportunity last year to play consistently well. He was playing sort of week in, week out, and he took the opportunity. He sort of, I think he ended up our top goal scorer, so sort of deserved his move to a championship club.
Yes, I think so. Just double checking. I think there was a question right at the start, which I missed. No, they repeated it. So yeah, James, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. I really appreciate your time, and it's been a very enjoyable show, and the feedback's been good so far. The audio version will be out tomorrow morning, so keep an eye out for that. Give it a share, guys, as well, if you could. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/A.C.E Podcast Nation. Don't forget to check out Black Diamond Sports' new website, obviously a global sports agency who represent sports stars around the world. And we thank them for supporting the show, as well as Bespoke Financial for sponsoring the Andy Campbell Football Show, as well as the Andy Campbell Championship Show, which returns on Friday. It makes its triumphant return as the championship is back.
Yeah.
So
happy days.
7 o'clock Friday.
Finally.
We will be talking as much championship football as we can in 1 hour plus Fergie time. It's always a good time. And
3 hours then.
Yeah, no, we've been good. We've been pretty good. Like I say, we've been good. My wife does not agree that we've been good, because it started off as 45 minutes, went to 60 minutes. Yeah. Now it's 60 minutes plus 30 time.
I'm not Becky's favourite person.
I just said it's Andy's idea. It was Andy's idea. I didn't want to do a show on a Friday. Andy forced me. He said he'd stop doing the shows if we didn't do a Friday show. Sorry. Anyway, yeah, guys, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And follow James on Twitter, and I like, what is it? It's at Coppinger 26, was it, or 66?
Yeah,
26 off the top of my head. And at A.C.E Footy Show, at AceCast_Nation. Thank you to everyone who's tuned in. Thank you for all the comments. Thank you, James. Thank you, Andy. It's a pleasure as always. And we will see you Friday, 7 o'clock for the Championship Show.
Thanks, lads. Cheers.
My mummy and daddy have been talking about life insurance. It sounds like something to protect my brother and me, but I don't really understand. Then my Auntie Louise told Mummy about Bespoke Financial Teesside. She said they're a local company who helped her with her life insurance. Mummy got in touch, and because they're based locally, a man called Darren was able to come to our house. He was really friendly. Darren stayed for a cup of tea and made it all really easy to understand. He said that life insurance will protect our home and family if anything bad were to happen. Like if Mummy or Daddy got sick, then we'd get enough money to take care of us, and our house would be paid for so it wouldn't get taken away. After an hour, Darren said goodbye, and Mummy and Daddy seemed a lot happier. Once it was all sorted, we could all relax and watch a film together as a family. I don't know why they didn't do it sooner.